This is Dinah Quevedo with my literature review presentation on supplements and exercise. Now, the purpose of this research study was to understand the importance of a nutritionally adequate diet while also maximizing physical performance using different supplementation. It is important to understand that while some products claim to improve strength and endurance, this may not always be the case. As a dietetic student, I'm very particular about a nutritionally sound diet, but I also understand that physical exercise is just as important as a nutritionally sound diet. So for me, this was I quite enjoyed this research. I found that not all supplements are regulated. If a supplement was created before 1994, then it is grandfathered in and not subject to testing. Supplements are generally meant to provide a means for meeting caloric needs while establishing a weight gain or a weight loss in some individuals and performance enhancement. Research has shown, though, that a proper nutrient-dense diet should be the basis for meeting those needs. Incorporating good dietary practices in your training program is one way to optimize your training adaptations. Many of the ergogenic products or supplementation tested in these studies did work and work well, producing better internal body functions and allowed enhanced exercise training from low intensity to moderate and severe intensity programs. For my methodology, I chose 20 different forms of supplementation and highlighted the effects on exercise and performance. I tried to focus on studies that utilized performance supplements such as vitamins, minerals, proteins, amino acids, herbs, and stimulants in different amounts and forms. And the one thing I asked myself were questions like, does the theory make sense? How is the research conducted? Were all the studies controlled? And do the results match the claims? And of course, are they legal and safe? Because I don't want to do any type of research or even endorse a product in some way or talk about a product in some way that's not legal and safe. And that can actually hinder your exercise program. So for my literature review, one of them that I have chosen to discuss with you is that the protein and carbohydrate supplementation after exercise increases plasma volume and albumin content in older and younger men. Now for this study, it was a 23-hour study conducted on 8 68-year-old men and 8 21-year-old men who were moderately active to test whether protein and carbohydrate supplementation after exercise increased plasma volume and albumin content. All of the men were given a controlled age-specific dietary allowance for the study. So that means that their protein needs were calculated, their caloric needs were calculated, and they were given that specific amount for their age, their height, and their weight, and so forth. The attenuated response showed albumin and plasma volume was restored after exercise in the older group when protein and carbohydrate supplementation was taken indirectly after exercise, which was quite similar to the younger group. This study is important as it was found that protein and carbohydrate supplementation enhanced plasma volume and albumin with strenuous physical activity in both the older group and the younger group when supplementation was taken after exercise. The next study was a study on the effects of antioxidant supplementation on insulin sensitivity in response to endurance exercise training. And this study is extremely important as many elderly patients have a higher risk for type 2 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes, if not properly controlled with diet and medication, can turn to type 1 diabetes, which can lead to other things like cardiovascular disease, blindness, neuropathies, and even death in some cases. For this study, it's been shown that a high-fat diet can induce insulin resistance by shifting the balance back toward antioxidant defense with the use of dietary antioxidant intake to improve health indexes for insulin-stimulated glucose removal in people with the type 2 diabetes. A high-fat diet was combined with vitamin C and vitamin E supplementation in elderly subjects along with an exercise regimen. The results found that there was significant evidence that RONs played an important role in the regulation of signaling pathways for insulin resistance in elderly subjects when combined with the endurance exercise and a high-fat diet along with vitamin C and vitamin E supplementation. And of course, like I said, this is extremely important research. Next, we studied the beetroot juice speeds O2 uptake kinetics and improves exercise tolerance. So the study was conducted on 9 healthy, physically fit random individuals to test the effects of dietary nitrate supplementation and how it may alter the physiological responses to exercise by specific effects on type 2 muscle. Subjects were given 140 milliliters a day of beetroot juice containing nitrate and 140 milliliters of placebo containing nitrate. Each had different solutions for those, different amounts, for the 6 days. On day 4, 5, and 6 of the supplementation days, the individuals completed a double-step exercise that transitioned from unloaded to moderate intensity exercise. The result found that with dietary supplementation with NO3-rich beetroot juice, the VO2 speeds up and enhances exercise tolerance during severe intensity exercise when begun during an elevated metabolic rate. So again, this was important because it did work well to improve exercise tolerance. Last study that I chose was fish oil and vitamin E supplementation in oxidative stress at rest and after physical exercise. Researchers tested fish oil and vitamin E supplementation on oxidative stress at rest and after physical exercise for 8 weeks in rats. They were divided into groups and given doses of fish oil and vitamin E, soy oil and vitamin E. For the fish oil and vitamin E and soy oil and vitamin E groups, they were divided out for exercise groups. While lipid peroxidation was 33% higher in the fish oil group than in the salt oil group, vitamin E supplementation greatly decreased liver and RG protein carbonyl levels, though levels in the fish oil and vitamin E and soy oil and vitamin E groups were almost the same. This study is important as supplementation showed the liver appeared to be relatively less susceptible to exercise-induced oxidative stress in the fish oil and vitamin E group. As most everyone knows, the liver is extremely important in detoxification, protein and carbohydrate signaling, sending proteins and carbohydrates and fats where they need to be. So this was really, really good for the liver to be able to work well in the case of exercise-induced stress. Here we have our data for our very first literature review. It shows different blood levels that were taken from hour 1 to hour 23 in both the young and the old. And as you can see, it shows, you have your different graphs and so forth there. Your next one is the data for the second literature review for the total proteins and phosphorylated proteins in both the antioxidant group and the placebo groups. Next is the data for the beetroot juice. This shows you both the data for pulmonary VO2 for beetroot juice and the placebo. So you can see how, your placebo is your dark gray dots and your beetroot juice is the open dots. You can see how they were about the same, but beetroot juice did increase for your VO2, your pulmonary VO2. So again, it worked. It done what it was supposed to. This is your data for your fish oil and the vitamin E supplementation with the soil and the soy oil and vitamin E supplementation. It shows you your protein carbonyls for your vastus lateralis tissue, as well as your red gastric nemeus tissue and liver tissue. For protein and carbohydrate supplementation, the data showed blood levels for sodium, osmolality, globulin, albumin, and the plasma volume for both the young and the old group from 1 hour to the 23rd hour. So you can go back and you can actually look at that and see. You have your sodium at the bottom left, your osmolality is next, your globulin is next, and then your albumin, and last at the very top left is your plasma volume. So you can look at those for both your young and old and see, where they were for each group. For the use of antioxidant supplementation on insulin sensitivity, the data showed total protein content of AKT was significantly increased after 12 weeks of training in both groups in those signaling pathways. So again, insulin sensitivity was shown to be improved with an endurance exercise program. So that again, the data shows that it did in fact do what it was supposed to do. Next, in the beetroot juice supplementation, the data showed an increase in the VO2 and enhanced exercise tolerance during severe intensity exercise when begun during an elevated metabolic rate. So you can go back to that again and you can look and see, like I said, your beetroot juice is the open circles and your placebo is your grayed circles. So you can, of course, you can look and see how pulmonary VO2 increased. So again, that did work. In the fish oil and vitamin E supplementation, data showed lower mean values in the red gastric nemeus and vastus lateralis tissues and less susceptibility to exercise-induced oxidative stress. If you go back, you can look and see the liver had less stress, had less oxidative stress there. So that's really good. In this study, that's what they wanted to be able to see, is how well the body could handle or supplementation could affect oxidative stress. So that did work. And while again, performance enhancement supplementation cannot and should not be substituted for a healthy diet, some of them may have great value to your internal functions and to the type and intensity of the activity you have chosen. So, if you want to choose a low intensity workout to a moderate intensity to even a severe intensity, something say like what they call high intensity or HIIT workouts, you can choose what you want, but the supplementation that I have chose to show you, any one of those would work well for a moderately to severe intensity program. Supplementation has been shown to enhance our body's metabolic stability and enhance our exercise training. Again, a diet is extremely important. So, make sure that you have a sound nutritional diet full of protein, carbohydrates, and fats, along with really good vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. But you should always consider incorporating some type of exercise into your daily routines.